Going to take 5 and gas. Can you guess who I'm imitating right now?
Yeah, I haven't even seen that yet, but I saw something that Jerry Jones gave the finger to people in New York.
The Jets fans.
Well,
Of all the shit that the Jets fans have to go through, getting the finger from Jerry Jones shouldn't be one of them. I mean, they already can't win a frickin' game, for crying out loud. They're the only winless team in football, and now Jerry Jones is flipping them off?
Boy, they looked awful. I watched some of that game yesterday. They look terrible. And although you're typical New York, what's the percentage of New Yorkers who say by the time they're 15 haven't been flipped off by a stranger? 2%, 3%?
No. All of them have. None. Everyone has.
Get Dave Sims back. We'll flip him off.
Their parents have, for crying out loud, by that point.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
yeah, I mean, that was a weird story. And then Mark Sanchez, speaking of ex-Jets, having a bad weekend.
God,
I mean, that's the bizarrest thing I've ever seen. He fighting over a parking space in Indianapolis, for crying out loud.
Well, it sounds like, I mean, it's hard to know everything that happened, but it sounds like
Right.
he's out, comes out of, I know right where he is. He comes out of this bar. There's 2 hotels right there. There's a big alley connecting the whole thing.
Okay.
He wants to run wind sprints in the alley, which of course you want to do at 12:30 in the morning.
Of course.
And there's a truck parked against the Westin Hotel loading dock, driven by a 69-year-old guy whose job is to drive around at night and drain grease traps out of restaurant. This poor guy is a hard-working soul,
Yeah,
right?
he is.
Nobody's doing that at the age of 69 because they like the people, You're doing
or
that
like the job.
Right, you need a job, and this guy's out working, and Sanchez starts yelling at him, you can't park the truck there, and it escalates. And it was a great example of something I learned a little bit from you. I learned a little bit from Nancy. I learned a little bit on my own, which is, man, you got to wait till you got all the facts. You got to wait till you get it, because at first it's like, oh, my God, Mark Sanchez got attacked on the streets of Indianapolis. Indiana's governor and lieutenant governor, who, without going into detail, are both knuckleheads, in my opinion. They immediately, well, see, this is what we mean. We're soft on crime. Look what's happened. It's like, no, it turns out that's not what happened. And
the guy who got stabbed is going to be charged with a felony.
Yeah.
The guy who got stabbed instead of the guy who did stab him.
I mean, imagine that. Yes, Mr. Sanchez, you're in the hospital. You've been stabbed. Oh, okay. And the police are here to arrest you. What? And
Like
he doesn't help himself.
Bad weekend for the Jets.
His first statement to the police was, I don't remember how I got stabbed, which, whether that's true or not, that's not a good way to start the whole spin. So who knows with him? I mean, he's obviously got a lot of problems right now. But
speaking of not remembering, how much do you remember of your time at the ball games over the weekend?
What I had forgotten was this. I didn't go to the Houston game 3 years ago because I had a commitment with the Huskies that day. So I hadn't been to a playoff game in Seattle since 2001.
Right.
And I'd forgotten how exhausting it is. And to do both of them, Renee and I went Saturday and Sunday, and they were, tense games, close games, great games, fun games to watch. Sundays more than Saturdays, and I'm not just saying that because the Mariners won. I promise you, Sunday's game was just more entertaining. There was more stuff going on, it felt like. But man, oh man, did we walk out of that park last night, and we had a pretty good walk to our car. And by the time we came limping onto Whidbey Island about 10:30 last night, we're like, it is time for some serious shut-eye for us, man. But what a great 2 days. Could have been better, but great 2 days for the Mariners, and great day yesterday to get off the mat and win that game.
Absolutely. I mean, so many good things to talk about in it. Your stars coming up big. And just, a thing that I got, more maybe watching TV than you might have gotten from being there, is the sense of leadership that Cal Raleigh has.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying anything here that, that people haven't noticed already, but, I don't know when the last time there was a player manager in baseball. It's been a long, long time. And I'm not saying Cal Raleigh is going to be one, but if there was going to be one, it would be him.
Yeah.
He has a presence on this team that jumped out at me on his trips to the mound, on just what it looks like in the dugout, the fact that, how he hit, didn't strike out, didn't swing for home runs, just everything about his approach, everything about his demeanor just really jumped out at me. And then Julio being Julio and being the star that he is the perfect counterweight for him. I mean, the Mariners have lucked out beyond belief that they've got these 2 great players who are young, who are signed for a significant period of time, going to be playing together. And, have already been tested by fire and have come through.
And tested, and again, I'm not saying this to pick on the 2 guys, but just the way a series works, the guys that aren't contributing stand out. And here you've got your two corner guys in the infield who are the reason you're here. I mean, Eugenio and Naylor are and boy, they both are really struggling. All of a sudden, that really jumps out at you. And wait, I say struggling for 2 games, but nevertheless, struggling. I agree with you, Julio. I liked the take coming into this series that Cal was going to be Cal, but maybe this is where Julio, I feel ridiculous saying this, really starts to shine. I mean, he's shining. We're seeing what this guy can be, and maybe the slow starts are just maybe going to be a part of his career. Who knows? But the way he came on at the end, and the way he had the one base running gaff last night where
that's the price that we pay for Julio.
And that's
it's
something.
Just going to be the way it is with him.
In my opinion, that's fixable, both with maturity and with, you can go work with a guy on that. Like if he suddenly couldn't hit a slider, I don't know what you do. What do you do to a superstar? It's like, I can't hit anymore. You can teach a guy tricks to be better on the bases and just to be a little more mentally in the game. And that's really nitpicking there because his defense is incredible. He's willing to try to make plays. He does a great job of keeping the ball in front of him. We've all seen that. And I don't know. And I'm with you on Cal. I mean, there's just a quiet confidence. And at a time where they desperately needed a hit to kind of get the crowd back into things and to try and, to get away from the angst feeling. And there's Ripken delivering a double for Ripken. There he is again. Raleigh. I'm telling you, Groz, I'm going to do it.
That
Cal Ripken is really some kind of, I can't believe he's playing at the age of 55. He delivers the double and comes in and it was, the difference too, it was interesting, Groz. I never, in all my years going to sports events, when Carpenter hit that home run in Game 1, I was never in a stadium where the air went out of it more than that one. I mean,
it was pretty obvious, yeah.
Unbelievable. Like there's this buzz and loudness and craziness and that bang, he hits that home run, and it was so quiet. And I'm not blaming the fans here. It never came back in Game 1. It just that buzz never. Last night, when the Tigers tied it, it was like that for a second, but almost instantly the buzz came back and people were still into it. So it's the playoffs, man. The roller coaster, the up and down, the being, oh my God, this at bat is everything, and it's fun. It's delicious to watch.
We'll show you some stuff too. People will talk about Dan Wilson maybe making a mistake by pitching to Carpenter, and a mistake he remedied the next day by making the right move. And you know what? It was still tied at 2-2 in the 8th inning. I mean, so it doesn't automatically make a difference, but Dan did make a mistake probably in that first game and corrected it immediately in the next game. Next time, you had as good as Castillo was pitching, you don't want him facing this guy for a third time. You just don't want it in a playoff situation when you've got a lefty that you can go to, and this is one of the only left-handed power bats that can really hurt you, and it was the right move to make at the time. Wilson made it. He stayed calm and cool the whole way. His bullpen, wow, they were a high wire act there towards the end, but really, it was ultimately, he showed the faith in his guys. The guys, rewarded the faith that he showed in them. And I think, tremendous amount of pressure off him, obviously, in winning that game and beating Skubal, who's just a great guy, by the way, brought the entire Seattle U baseball team with him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
To watch him play. Yeah,
That's
which is really
great.
just a class act. And, he's the best pitcher in the league, and they've beaten him 3 times now, which is remarkable. I hate to have to do it 4 times.
Yeah.
I'd
like to see him win 2 in
Detroit if we could. Yeah. But, man, it's great. It feels different than the playoffs did 2 years ago. They feel like a better team to me. They still look good to me. I don't think anything has changed my opinion on how it looks. And, it's going to be a wild, wild ride for them. And, Toronto is just obliterating the Yankees. So, I mean, it looks like, we may have the expansion buddies get together for a World Series. How about for the American League Championship Series? That'd be something to see.
I mean, the good thing about playing the Yankees is you'd have the home field. You'd be the higher seed and you'd have home field for 4 of the 7 games. You don't have that against Toronto. The good thing about playing Toronto is you're not playing the Yankees. And I mean no disrespect towards Toronto.
I know what you
mean.
But
the Yankees are like a boogeyman out there, man. You never know when those guys are going to get their act together and start railing. And, it's it's fun. I was listening to our alma mater last night has brought back baseball's best post-game show. So Chuck and Bucky are on the air afterwards and talking baseball. And Bucky had a great point. And again, it's it's tiresome, I think, for people to hear, but we all know it's true, is that's baseball. Bucky said, he said Wilson probably had trouble going to sleep Saturday night, knowing that he could have brought in Spires and didn't. And then he learned, and last night he brought him in, but Bucky goes, but the way baseball works? Let's say he brings him in Saturday night and he does the job, and then Sunday night he goes, well, let's just stick with Castillo, and that's when, Carpenter hits the, you never know in this sport. I mean, every decision you make is magnified. I'm sure if Dan had it to do over again, he'd have gone like, let's get George out of there now. But, that's it. And, you mentioned the Yankees. I'd rather be the M's right now than the Yankees. The Yankees get pulverized in back-to-back games. The M's are in 2 sensational games and have got to feel pretty good about their chances.
Yankee fans are ready to unload on the Yankees.
Right.
They're going to that game ready to boo, not ready to cheer.
Yeah. Ready to give the finger.
Right. How about if the Mariners play the their expansion buddies in the American League Championship Series and then play the World Series against the Pilots?
Wouldn't that be something?
Everything's coming up Mariners.
Yeah, it really be. I mean, I think the Brewers Mariners matchup would just be fantastic because it would shine the light on, the best known 1-year team in sports history because of Jim Bouton's book. I mean, more's known about the Seattle Pilots. There's a handful of, what do you know about the Kansas City Scouts who existed for about a year in the NHL? Nothing. But the Pilots people know about. I think it'd be a lot of fun if it works out. And a Toronto-Seattle series.
A lot of time to go.
Yeah, the Toronto-Seattle series would be fun. I mean, that'd be, because some fans would get down here. And, I already heard people go last time, well, it was Toronto fans. We're really going to let them have it. And whatever, man. That's, have fun.
We'll get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to take care of business in Detroit first. But a great start to the postseason, and it's really good they're back. And then, is there anything else we want to talk about in baseball? Anything else we need to hit in baseball?
Just the one last thing I'd say is, it's funny. It's like a giant game of Jenga. One little thing can change it all. And think of how different everything might have been. And who knows, maybe it would have gone worse. But, Brian Wu strains a pectoral muscle 2 weeks ago. We're all like, okay, I hope that's okay. And hopefully he'll be back soon. But that changes a lot in this series. It changes probably how you set up your pitching, and how you approach various things. And he's an extra arm and all that. So, not to be forgotten is if they can get him back, that'll be a big plus.
Well, it also goes to show that not trading any of those arms was the right way to go.
Yeah, you're right.
Some of us believe that from the beginning, and it was the right way to go. And you have a little bit of spare there. You're not as worried about losing a number one starter right before a series starts, which is a lot different than dealing without him a couple of weeks before a series starts. This was right before.
Yeah. I mean, imagine that'll show you how strong the team is and how good the leadership is and how steady everyone's been, is that it's tough for a team to lose your best guy right before a playoff series and still go, okay, well, 1-1. And, maybe you're going to have to go to a game 5, but it's hard for me to believe it's baseball. So who knows? Hard for me to believe the Tigers are going to win back to back now against the M's and eliminate them. It could happen, but I think this goes to a 5th game at the very least. And I still like the M's chances.
A great football game yesterday too, by the way. I don't know how much of that you saw or you caught going to the baseball game, but it was a fantastic, I know it didn't work out the way people wanted, but it was a fantastic game between two of the better teams in the NFL. I'm not as worried about the Seahawks, as I was before the year started, even after this game. I think that, they're not going to have all these guys out on defense all year long. I think the defense is ultimately going to be fine. Offensively, though, Sam Darnold, now, on the one hand, and Puckett pointed this out, could have had 3 picks yesterday.
Yeah, right.
But didn't. Yeah. So instead, he had a fantastic day and nearly got it done at the end. And, the one pick that he did have at the end was off a guy's helmet.
Yeah.
So it was fluky to say the very least. But, Tampa played great. They're playing good, and they played a real fun game against them. I'm not as worried about the defense as they're missing a lot of key guys. Guys will be back. McDonald will get that taken care of. But offensively, I really loved what I saw from that team yesterday.
Your 2 quarterbacks that you watched yesterday, if you like the aerial game, went 57 for 67. Just remarkably fun to watch. The thing with Darnold now is that the 2 games they've lost have kind of mirrored his season of last year, where it's like, yeah, he's great, and then right at the end. But they've also been fluky plays. The fumble against the Niners, the ball hits one of the offensive linemen. I mean, you can say that's fluky, you can say you got to be more careful, but either way,
fluky.
That's not something. It's fluky. And then a ball bouncing off a helmet, fluky.
Yeah.
You see you're a ball bouncing off an offensive lineman and a ball bouncing off a helmet from maybe being unbeaten at this point in the season. And I'm with you. I think Tampa is the team to beat right now in the league, just the way they've been playing. And I like Mayfield. I've liked him all the way. The backlash against him when he's doing too many endorsements for a guy who hadn't been in the league. Just shut up, man. Guys have a right to make money and do what they want. And he's just been steady and has gotten better, and finally got himself in a situation where he's viewed as the man instead of a stopgap. And he looked great yesterday.
Playing like him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that the Cowboys getting their win. The league's getting fun, as it always does, because things are shaking out a little bit. And you're starting to learn a little bit about who's who and what's what. And I think a fun one tonight, I think the Chiefs are Jacksonville. And this is the one thing that concerns me a little about the Seahawks, is all of a sudden the schedule is a little daunting. I mean, Jacksonville looks better than people thought they'd be. The Texans are certainly very good. Jacksonville tonight has the Chiefs. That'll be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a good way of putting it. It's shaking out a little bit now as you pass the quarter pole and season's getting a little more set. You're seeing who's disappointing and who's not, and who's got a lot of work to do and who doesn't. And I like what I see from the Seahawks. Just to get back to that point, I think San Francisco, they're as good as San Francisco, certainly. They're as good as the Rams, in my opinion, as well. And the Cardinals, I want to say something about the Cardinals. It has nothing to do with the fact that they ruined a bet of mine yesterday. But
I'm glad you clarified that.
I want to clarify that. But when you have plays like that play that determine that game, and you have people gambling on the games the way you are, eventually something like that is going to be a bigger problem than just a lunk-headed play on the field.
And you mean in terms of fan reaction and overreaction and how angry
exactly
people
what
are
I
getting?
mean. Exactly what I mean. People who made bets and then see this guy making a play and then drops the ball before he gets in the end zone. How can he do that? I mean, I'm glad nothing like that has happened yet, but I cringe every time I see plays like that happen because, we're going to hear stories about that coming up because of the way they're allowing gambling. It's hard for me to believe a guy who loves gambling would be talking this way, but I mean, it's something that we got to have in the back of our minds because it's something that's going to rear its head here sooner rather than later.
And especially, people who are like you and I, I've known you a lot of years, Dave. I've never seen you make what I would consider a foolish financial bet. You've always bet within your means,
right?
And like when you get on a losing streak, like I'm gonna lay out for a while. You've never been a guy who's like, man, can you get me a couple thousand to get me? That's not.
We've
your
known
style.
some guys like that.
We've known guys like that, and we know that there are a lot of guys like that right now. With as easy as it is to bet, I don't even have a betting app on my phone. I'm in a couple different things where I do some gambling, but and they're legal, by the way.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. And a lot of people have the apps. You hear about the young people that get way into debt. What about the college kids that are $1,000 into debt? That's like $1 million to a college kid. That's You're right. It's the unintended effect of this. I think you and I, for most of our career, were like, that just make gambling legal, and you get into it and you go, gosh.
Well, but I think what we were talking about was making it legal, not legal on every play.
Right.
Not sitting there, betting every single play of a game, getting drunker and getting angrier. And it's, it's just something that's in the back of my mind. It's something that's there's going to be something to this coming sooner rather than later, the way things are going these days.
Yeah. And then just the anger where people, I remember the angriest voicemail back in the voicemail, not our voicemails, not the ones you're putting in the air, but I had a personal phone number at KJR, and people would leave you voicemails occasionally, and people would, they were tough on there, and they'd tell you you're an idiot and jerk and all that. The angriest one I ever got was when I was doing a thing at Gas's Best Bet, and I'd give a couple of bets that I thought were good, and I had a guy call me, and he was near tears. He was that kind of anger. I could tell he had bet a lot of money on something I had told, and I just stopped doing it. I said, I don't know that much, as you know, and could point out, I don't know that much about what I'm doing. But this guy was just beside himself and didn't really threaten me, but just told me I should quit and get out of the business and never. I'm like, God dang, man, this is 30 years ago.
Right.
It's just gotten more, the American hype system. I'll tell you what, if you're worried that there's not enough hype in America, go to a Mariners playoff game where it's like being in a club for 3.5 hours. I mean, it's kind of cheer louder, break the voice meter louder. God
I don't
damn,
fight it anymore, man.
Shut up, man, please.
You can't fight it anymore.
Give me 2 minutes to just enjoy the natural sounds of this game. And it's everywhere. Everything's a WWE match or an MMA match, and it's the same at betting. All the networks are into it. The guys are
insanely.
I don't know. It exploded more than I think you and I thought it would. And you're right, with the individual play bet and being able to chase. You're down low, so start chasing, start betting. Are they going to punt or they're going to go for it?
You're mixing it with alcohol in the moment. It's bad juju, man.
Hey, before we get too further down, we probably ought to give a bouquet to my new favorite coach. I think is Jedd Fisch. I just love his steady attitude. And I understand the Husky fans were all pissed off at the end of the third quarter. I get it, but you sign up to play 4, and that's what they did. And what a great win for those guys on the road against an unbeaten team. That was terrific.
An unbeaten team that had a week off.
Yeah.
When they played the number 1 team in the country, the Huskies, the week before, and flew across country to play that game. I mean, at every disadvantage possible, go down 20-0, as you pointed out. It's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah.
And, the fact that they came back was one thing. The fact they came back and win, it takes it even a level further. I agree with you completely. I think it was maybe the best weekend of all for Jedd Fisch, because that was, I did not see that. I did not see that coming. Did not see that coming at all. And watching that game, and it was just, his team didn't give up on him, and he didn't give up on them, and they wound up winning a huge game.
He's just got an interesting style to him. They don't show him screaming at players. Maybe he does in meeting rooms, and I don't really care. I mean, there's different ways to coach a team. He just seems to have this steady outlook. And I mean, last year steady, despite the fact that they had times where he could have gone off a little bit. And they're all of a sudden, I mean, they're a playoff contender now. They got some rough patches ahead of the schedule, but who's to say they can't handle them? Again, they didn't get manhandled by Ohio State. They just lost. Could they go into Michigan and win? I'd say tough, but not undoable.
Well, Penn State can lose to UCLA.
Yeah, right.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, and Washington's lucky this year because they've got, to borrow the old Lee Corso line, they've got Indiana right where they want them, off their schedule. So you don't have to face the Hoosiers. But they've
got
10
Hoosiers.
Yeah, the top 10 Hoosiers who've got a little Dayton Eugene this week. And there's an example of, again, college football. The last time Indiana played in Eugene, they won. They won their second game of the season. They would finish the year 2-9. They were a dreadful team. Oregon was already blowing and going. This is 2004. And somehow Indiana won that game. So you just, in this sport, Renee and I were talking about this yesterday. You watch college football and you forget sometimes that it's being played by 18 to 22-year-olds. So
not for much longer, buddy.
Well, stop ruining my points with facts. I had it with you with this fact-based bullshit here.
Some 50-year-old guy who's playing now. I mean, for crying out loud.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's kids
I
still.
do.
And you never know what to expect. And again, the Big Ten continues to be an interesting experiment to me just because of the brutal travel the teams have. I mean, horrible. I'm thinking the other night watching that, like Michigan State, USC, when that game ends, and one day, the ACC the same way. I'm watching Duke and Cal the other night. I finally get so tired I got to go to bed, and I'm thinking the Duke kids are going to get done at like 11 o'clock West Coast time, 2 a.m. on the East Coast. And I'm assuming they're flying back that night. Overnight flight to get home. It's
nuts.
It's nuts. Nutso. Can I tell you a joke, Groz? I've been working on a joke all morning, and I think you'll like this one. I don't know if you saw the news, and I don't know if you were a huge fan of these guys, but Rush, the music band, they're going to go back out on tour. Their drummer, Neil Peart, died 8 years ago. They stopped playing 10 years ago. And Alex and Getty, the two surviving members, said, you know what, we love these songs and we want to play them again, so we're going to go out. They're going to do a very limited tour. They hired a drummer named Anika Nills. She's played drums with a lot of groups, including Jeff Beck. So she's got the chops, and so Rush is going out with a female drummer. And my joke is, by doing that, they're doubling the number of females at your typical Rush concert. It's going to be it's going to be a little bit better environment for guys looking to meet a young lady. It's I know there's some women who like Rush, but for the most part, you go to a Rush show and you're looking around, and it is a guy fest. But I think it's kind of cool, and it'll be interesting to see how they do with that.
You want a Geddy Lee fun fact off the top of my head?
I know there's several that involve baseball, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think he's one of the biggest donators to the Negro League Hall of Fame in the world.
Yeah.
He has donated something like 250 baseballs signed by a variety of the Negro League members that's been on display there. When I was doing the Seattle U games, I always play in Kansas City, so I'd go to the Negro League Hall of Fame every year. And collection just got bigger and bigger as time went on. But yeah, he's a big baseball fan and a huge supporter of that museum in particular.
Walked right past him one time at a Mariner game years and years ago. Like one of those things where I saw him and I couldn't put together who it was. And not that I needed to say hi to him. He's got other things to do. But they showed him yesterday. Hey, Geddy, hey, you want to do a photo with me? He was on my show once. We had him on because he's a terrific guy. He was at the Toronto game yesterday. They showed him on TV, so he's a big baseball fan. It's not a thing with it's a big deal with him. So, but all that being said, we all love Geddy. But guess what, Geddy? If it's Toronto versus Seattle, you're on your own. Go do your rehearsal for your new tour, pal.
Today's Tom Sawyer is going to beat you up.
That's right. Groz, how about we go to Port Hedland, Australia for a pig story? You like pig?
Who doesn't like pigs?
This is one of the all-time great opening sentences to a story ever. Port Hedland, Australia. A booze-pilfering, drunken, feral pig has caused chaos by running amok in an Australian campsite and starting a fight with a cow. You think Sanchez had a bad weekend? This pig,
booze-fueled pig,
the belligerent porker. He's a belligerent porker, Groz. Went on a drunken bender after stealing 3 6-packs of beer and drinking them. So he drinks 18 beers. Right? Yeah, that's 18.
Yeah, that's like 12, 18.
Like I'm the one who needs a beer. At the De Grey River campsite in Australia, in a predictable series of events that followed, the animal went on a ransack. He ransacked rubbish bin bags and then found some late-night snacks before starting a fight with an innocent eyewitness cow, according to observers. And a cow was just at a campsite. I don't know why a cow was at a campsite, but it was. The pig then attacked the cow, who appeared somewhat startled, according to campers who were watching this. But then it appeared as if the cow maybe realized, I'm a cow, and started chasing the pig. Like, I'm 20 times your size, you belligerent porker. So they ran around the campsite a couple times. The pig dives in the river, swims across the other side, passes out under a tree, and was still there the next morning when everybody woke up.
That's what I was going to say. There's one thing you don't do when you see that happening is get involved.
Intervene. Right? What's your old line?
I'm out.
Your old line, you have to ask yourself, who has more to lose? And the answer always is you.
Especially if it comes to a pig and a cow fighting.
Adios, amigo.
All right, pal.